Hello, Coolman229 here with another Topic of the Week video. And I'm going to be doing a whole month worth of Star Wars topics. And I'm going to be starting it off with a topic about Jyn versus Rey as characters. This week's topic was submitted by Angel89 and her topic is Rey versus Jyn. Similarities have been drawn, but despite both being brunettes, orphans, strong capable fighters, smart and resourceful, with British accents and a strong desire to be reunited with their families, the two girls are very different when handled in writing. What about Jyn is better written? What about Jyn pays better homage to characters like Anakin, Luke, Leia than Rey, but is still her own character? Why does it feel like a better fit in the universe of the movies that came before it compared to The Force Awakens? Alright, so a little bit of background. I saw The Force Awakens in theaters. I saw it with Angel89. And, it was bad. It was really bad. It was awful. I didn't want to admit it at first. We were kind of in denial for at least a few weeks. But, yeah, it was bad. And Rey was pretty terrible. A character that I was so excited, so ready to love, ended up being a poorly written Mary Sue who just accomplished literally impossible things for no reason other than she's the main character, I guess. Pulling out force powers like the Jedi mind trick without even knowing that it exists, using the force at master levels for literally no reason, being able to repel Kylo Ren's, Jedi or just force mind interrogation, whatever that was, and is able to be a master level lightsaber fighter the first time she picks up a lightsaber. Yeah. Rey was pretty bad. It's nothing against Daisy Ridley. She did fine with what she was given, which was pretty much nothing. But Rey was just a poorly written character. So after that, a lot of my excitement for Rogue One kind of got a little squashed. I was actually really excited for Rogue One. The concept of seeing the rebel spies who got the Death Star plans to Leia. Oh, that's really cool. And it was going to be like this group movie, like it's about this, this squad and how they accomplish this. I'm like, nice, yes. And then I started seeing the trailers and it was all focused on this girl named Jyn. And I was really worried. I was thinking that she was going to be another Rey. In fact, if you had talked to me before Rogue One came out, like in the months before Rogue One came out, I probably would have been pretty pessimistic about the movie. I heard there were some reshoots. I was like, okay, no, this is. I love Gareth Edwards. I love Godzilla 2014. I love that movie. I was not getting excited for Rogue One, and after The Force Awakens, it killed all my excitement. But Rogue One came out, and some friends saw it, and some friends I trust said, hey, this was actually really good. And I thought, okay. I'll see it. And I'll see, alright, what's the big deal? If this is bad, this is going to be my last Star Wars movie. And so I went into theaters and I saw it, and it was really good. I love Rogue One. Like, to the point where if I rewatching the entire saga, I'll watch episodes 1 through 6, and I'll put Rogue One between episodes 3 and 4. Like, it's that good. Like, I will watch it, and it's so great getting you pumped up to go into episode 4, because it leads right into it. Like, I love Rogue One so much that I ended up buying it. I pre-ordered it, because I love this movie so much. And, I've rewatched it numerous times, and even Angel and I have actually done, marathons where we'll watch all the movies, and we do that where we watch episodes 1 through 3, then Rogue One, and then 4, 5, and 6. And it's funny how it fits so much better than The Force Awakens, because The Force Awakens is basically like, hey, let's just toss everything that was great about the other Star Wars movies out and make a generic action movie, but just paint a little bit of Star Wars on. Alright, yeah, some stormtroopers, a lightsaber, X-Wings, yeah, that's all you need, right? But, and a lot of that comes down to Rey. Like, Rey does stuff that was in the original movies. Rey beats Kylo Ren like Luke beat Darth Vader, but it was in the wrong movie. It was in the first movie, not the last movie. Rey does the Jedi mind trick, like we saw Obi-Wan do in A New Hope, and if I remember correctly, yeah, I think Luke uses that in A Return of the Jedi. But of course, Luke doesn't do that until years later in universe, and then in the last movie of the trilogy, after he's done training with Yoda and done obviously personal training. So you have all these like superficial references, but it doesn't work. Jyn is interesting because, unlike all the other like main characters, Luke, Anakin, and Rey, Jyn's not Force sensitive. She's a normal person. She can fight because she was trained, and this is one of my favorite things. She was trained by Saw Gerrera, who's a freedom fighter. So obviously, she's been in a few fights herself long before the movie starts. So her ability to fight is easily, understandable. Where Rey's a little, well, she fights because she's on a scavenger planet, I guess. Oh yeah, and that doesn't even explain Rey's master level lightsaber skills. But with Jyn's character overall, I was amazed that despite the superficial similarities listed in this topic, she is so much better than Rey in pretty much every conceivable way. One of the things to talk about is their relationship to their families, and how it's actually relevant to Jyn's story. Or Rey, it's left as one of J.J. Abrams' mystery boxes in The Force Awakens, and then Rian Johnson, when he picks it up in The Last Jedi, is just like, the nobodies, I guess. And then they'll probably change, J.J. will probably change it again when they get to Episode 9, because there's no consistency or plan, and there's no real character arc for Rey. Like, shooting in The Force Awakens, the most that we get from that is Maz Kanata basically saying, dude, your parents aren't coming back for you. Just keep walking. Just go forward. Stop. Don't stop. And that was really kind of it. It didn't really affect her story. In fact, it doesn't really affect her story in The Last Jedi either. There's no really involvement with her family, despite that being played up as a big part, and the mystery of who her parents were, which was left as a mystery for 2 years, even over 2 years. It was before The Force Awakens. We were all wondering that, and we were expecting it to be answered in The Force Awakens. It wasn't. And then people were expecting it to be answered in The Last Jedi. It wasn't, at least not properly, and it was done in the most anticlimactic and unsatisfying way possible, because Rian Johnson wants to be subversive. But with Jyn, her issues with her family is directly related to the plot. Her father helped design the Death Star. So when you have, Jyn, finding out about her father, like, she always thought that her father had become basically an Imperial lackey. Just lies that she told herself to make her feel better about being abandoned. Well, it's like, and she'd been suffering so much abandonment from her life, from being ripped away from her parents, when her mother being killed, and her father being taken by the Empire when she was a child, and then being taken in by Saw Gerrera, only to be dumped by him as a teenager. Jyn's not exactly had a great life. But her whole storyline is about, her realizing the truth. Her father wasn't a lackey. He hates the Empire. But he knew that, as he said himself in the movie, that if he left, or if he killed himself out of, despite the Empire, they would just find someone else who would do exactly what they said. So she finds out that he had been building up this revenge plan against the Empire. And she realizes that all the horrible things she thought about her father over the years was all a lie. And you even see with her relationship with Saw Gerrera, who was almost like a surrogate father to her. She felt, abandoned and used by him. He trained her, he taught her how to fight, he taught her, all that stuff about, being basically a rebel. but she felt so jaded and abandoned that she'd actually become totally neutral to the conflict. And this is another interesting thing. Jin starts off the movie not caring. She doesn't care who at the Empire and the Rebellion are doing. She's just wants to sit there and do her own thing. So she wants to survive. And one of the best lines in the movie, which is a great line, is when she says, when they ask her if she's asked if it's a problem that the Empire, if it doesn't bother that the Empire is rules everything, and then she's like, it's not a problem if you don't look up. So as long as you keep your head down, blinders on, be like, well, this spot's pretty good for me, and I guess I don't have to worry about the Empire. And that's so interesting because she has a character arc over the course of the movie about learning to fight for something that's more than just herself. And this is tied into her character arc involving her father. That her father, Galen Erso, was revealed to be someone who had sacrificed everything in order to take his revenge on the Empire, to stop them from the horrible things. And this is something that Jin does later on in the movie when she and everyone else sacrifice themselves in order to get the Death Star plans to Leia, or the Rebellion more specifically, is what they were going for. So you have, Jin's character, and even her, desire to reunite with her family. She reunites with her father after realizing the truth. And after, seeing him die in her arms, and she basically has no one left in terms of family. Saw's dead, her mother's dead, her father's dead. And, it's clear, you understand who she is and what she's doing. You understand her backstory, which is something you don't get for Rey. Like, Rey's backstory is almost purposefully vague. But then they give these little tidbits, and it's either unsatisfying or just dumb. And it's not really relevant to her character, because Rey just wins. Rey's walking around with an instant win button going, force powers. But, you have Jin actually go through this arc. You actually have her learn. You actually have her, suffer and ultimately die for a cause that she didn't believe in at the beginning of the movie. Whereas in the beginning, she wanted to fight for herself. She wanted to be selfish. She couldn't care if the Empire ruled forever, as long as her life wasn't completely affected by it. And then she was, influenced by Cassian, by Saw, by her father, and was influenced by seeing the rebellion that, this is more than just her. This is bigger than just one person. And you ultimately see that during the Battle of Scarif, when they go out of their way to steal the Death Star plans and get them to the rebellion, not because it helps her, not because it would help any of them directly, but because they knew that they had to do something. Jin knew she had to do something to save everyone. And if that cost a few dozen lives on Scarif, or maybe a couple hundred, if you include some of the ships that were attacked, to save what's billions upon billions of lives from the Empire, then that was a sacrifice she was willing to make. And Rey, they sort of attempted something similar with Rey, where Rey starts off being kind of more concerned about herself, but ultimately she ends up helping everyone pretty much immediately. Like, even with BB-8, like, when they offer her a crap ton of, like, rations to trade for BB-8, and she almost takes it, but then she decides, no, it's not right, basically. But, I mean, though she's always kind and always helpful, and it's kind of boring because she doesn't feel like a real character. And it's like she's not really suffering, she's just perfect. And it's annoying. And it's annoying to see someone be perfect. And this is why Jin was so refreshing after The Force Awakens, is that Jin's not perfect. She starts off being kind of a selfish, prick in the beginning of the movie, not wanting to help anyone. I mean, sure, you can understand. And unlike Rey, you actually understand Jin's backstory because you understand her father. You understand, her relationship to her father, her relationship to her to Saw Gerrera. You understand her connection to Krennic, who's one of the primary villains of the movie. You understand who she is. You understand at least the most important parts of her life that led her to be who she is. In just a few sentences, they actually establish, her backstory with Saw. So you understand, why she felt, abandoned, why she doesn't really feel any particular connection to him, but you also get understanding about, who taught her to fight. Oh, Saw Gerrera, freedom fighter. He taught her how to fight. Okay. Alright, that makes sense. And it's so funny that everything that Jyn and Rey can do so many things that are similar. Yet the outcome, because of the writing, is so drastically different. I mean, if you want to talk about how they fit into the overarching, series of movies, it's so funny because Rogue One is so, not antithetical, but it's very different from the previous movies. It's different from the original trilogy. It's different from the prequels. It's even very different from the sequels, which are for the most part copying the original trilogy. But as a character, like I said, Jyn isn't Force sensitive. Rey is following in the footsteps of Luke and Anakin as protagonists. Not well, mind you, but she is doing that as a Jedi with Anakin's lightsaber. And you see her basically supposed to be her growth as a Jedi, and it's very much the similar story, which isn't inherently a problem if it was well written, but it's not. But Jyn's whole character she's different. She's not a wide-eyed idealist. She's not someone like how Luke and Anakin start off in their respective first movies, being, having these ideals and these big goals of wanting to do something. Luke wants to get off Tatooine and, become a pilot, and he wants to, and he's interested by the, the conflict with the rebellion, and very, once the chance to actually join it happens, he does so. And with Anakin, when, he's first introduced, he's just this kid who's had a tough life, and then he gets this chance to become a Jedi, and you see that doesn't really play well for him, because he ends up becoming Darth Vader. But Jyn doesn't start off like that. And even when Anakin has his issues in, episodes 2 and episode 3, I wouldn't even call him as jaded, at least until the end of Revenge of the Sith. But, none of them were ever in the same spot Jyn is. And I think she fits because it doesn't feel repetitive to see her story. It feels refreshing, and it's actually interesting watching the prequels, then Rogue One, then you have this different story, and then you lead into the original trilogy. It's so interesting to see her character development, which, well, you could say it's someone who starts off with, well, basically nothing, and ends up finding out, something important about them, and then they end up helping the good guys. It's still that basic, character arc, but it's done in a way that it makes it feel like, it makes the world feel a little bit more fleshed out. Because one of the biggest problems that you see with a character like Rey is that this is a character we've seen before. But with Jyn, this is a character not that we've never seen a character like Jyn in the Star Wars franchise, but in terms of the movies, you don't see a character like Jyn. You have good guys shown as not being purely good. Like, even the Rebellion. You have Cassian and his, commander. And even to other, rebels, that they make it clear that they've done some terrible things. They've killed people and sometimes done some very questionable things for the greater good. So, it shows that the Rebellion isn't this squeaky clean group that never did anything wrong. They are fighting a war. So it was great to see that perspective, and through Jyn you get her with all these other characters coming together and in some ways redeeming some of the things they've done, some of the horrible things that they've done, and for Jyn to make up for the fact that she hasn't done basically anything for anyone in years, to try to do something more. And to see this sad story of Jyn and the rest of Rogue One, the team, you have... It's a different kind of emotions than the ones you see in the Star Wars movies, because the core concept of hope is still there. The concept of hope that you saw at the end of Revenge of the Sith. The concept of hope that was, so firmly established in the original trilogy. It's still there despite the fact that the entire main cast dies. You have Jyn and Cassian die. You have everyone else die, but they got the Death Star plans to the rebellion. Leia has it, and we know going into A New Hope that Luke's going to blow up the Death Star because they had those plans. And I think one of the things that fits so much better about this than The Force Awakens or even Last Jedi is that it still keeps that core concept of hope. Instead of saying something, superficial or doing something extremely meaningless but making a big deal out of it, like, oh, Rey is hope. Well, not really. Everything sucks. The First Order is ultra powerful, but with Jyn, there is hope. And it's hope in the most hopeless of situations. And I think this is one of the things that really makes it fit so much better, is that they didn't, Jyn and Cassian really didn't have any straight up guarantee that the rebels fully got the plans and were going to go and destroy the Death Star. But they had hope. And one of the best lines in the movie is, rebellions are built on hope. And it's a line that's echoed, several times in the movie. And you can see that even characters like Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, where they believe in the hope. But then there are others in the rebellion, other major players that, really don't. And, and I think that Jyn really, exemplifies one of the core concept of hope in that Star Wars is built on far better than Rey ever did. Because you can see someone like Jyn fight. You can see someone like her change and become a better person, become someone willing to lay down her life in order to help the rest of the galaxy, even if she doesn't get to live to see it. That exemplifies, the willingness to be the hero and the willingness to help people that, frankly, The Force Awakens tried to do, but ultimately kind of failed at. So yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. Overall, Jyn is just a much better written character. She has a character arc, unlike Rey. She has, a real development from someone who would probably care more about herself to someone who actually became selfless, where Rey just became selfless because she's good without any real reason, even though you would expect her to trade in BB-8 for the rations because, oh boy, does she need them. But the overall movie, in Jyn's story, does exemplify the concept of hope, better than Rey's story did in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and I'm calling it now, better than whatever Episode 9 is going to be. So, overall, there's a reason why I love Jyn so much as a character and why I love Rogue One so much, as opposed to The Force Awakens, and despite how much it hurts to say how much I don't like Rey as a character. Concept, I like her, but as a character, no. But Jyn, as a concept, as a character, in her execution, I love Jyn Erso. And this is really where it shows you that even if you have similar ideas, writing is always something that is super important to making it good. So yeah, that about wraps it up for this topic. If you want to submit a topic to me, you can comment below if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Tumblr, you can send me an ask and do topic : and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Just make sure to follow the rules that I'll be posting down below. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when I get that done. So if you want to talk about anything about Jyn or Rey, if you want to say, about what you liked about Jyn or Rey, and, especially, why Jyn was such a better character than Rey, comment below. I really want to hear your thoughts. And thank you for watching.